There are moments in life when you suddenly feel like the world is not quite what you thought it was. Not in a dramatic sci-fi sense, but in a quieter, more intimate way. Like noticing that the background noise you ignored your whole life was actually running the show. Imagine discovering that nearly every thought, every stress, every emotional tug of war you've ever had was coming from a place inside you that isn't actually the real you. It's like taking off a pair of glasses you didn't know you were wearing, glasses that distorted the world just enough to keep you trapped without realizing it. That's what we're talking about today. The moment you wake up to the idea that presence, actual presence, is the doorway out of the mental maze you've been walking through for years. Most of us live in a state that could be described as autopilot with commentary. There's the constant chatter, the replaying of something that happened yesterday, the rehearsing of something that might happen tomorrow, the ongoing commentary about what's wrong with your life, what could go wrong, what should have gone right, how people perceive you, how you perceive yourself. We tend to think this mental noise is necessary, even valuable, because it feels like the part of us that solves problems and keeps us safe. But when you really look at it, most of this thinking does nothing except keep you stuck in anxiety, regret, doubt, or distraction. One of the most radical shifts you can experience, and yes, this is the so-called red pill version of understanding presence, is realizing that you are not that noise. You're not the running monologue in your head. You're the awareness that hears it. The moment that clicks for the first time, even for a second, it feels like the ground under your identity shifts. It's unsettling, but in the best way. It pulls you out of the unconscious absorption in your mind and drops you into actual experience, the raw moment happening right now. When you hear this idea, it might sound abstract, but it's not. It's deeply practical. Just think about how often you suffer because of something that isn't actually happening. You worry about a future problem as if worrying is the same as preparing. You replay an argument in your head as if mentally revisiting it could change what already happened. You hold on to labels about yourself, about who you are, what you can do, what you can't do, all based on memories, some of which you didn't even choose to form. That's the egoic mind at work. It's not bad or evil, it's just a structure, a habitual way of interpreting life that you never realized wasn't the whole picture. The power of presence is that it cuts through this illusion, not by giving you new beliefs to cram into your head, but by directing your attention to something more immediate. Try this for a moment. Notice that you're listening. Not the words, not the content. Notice the act of listening itself, that quiet awareness behind the scenes. That's what the book points to again and again, the recognition that awareness is always here, always stable, always untouched by the noise of thoughts. The noise comes and goes, but the awareness remains. That's the real you. Most people never question the idea that their thoughts are them, but once you start watching your thoughts instead of being pulled around by them, something amazing starts happening. You realize the mind is constantly trying to project you into the future or drag you into the past. The mind thrives on psychological time, the idea that happiness or peace exists somewhere other than here. It keeps you chasing an ideal self or replaying a broken version of yourself. But the moment you actually rest in the present, you experience something totally different, a kind of stillness that doesn't depend on circumstances. And here's the twist. This stillness isn't something you create, it's something you uncover. It's always been there, buried under layers of thought, fear, ambition, memory, and conditioning. It's the feeling you get when you stop running for a few seconds and just breathe without trying to fix anything. It's the moment you become aware of the sensations in your body, the sounds in the room, the rhythm of your breath. It's simple, but it's powerful because it shifts the center of your identity from the mind to consciousness. Now, let's talk about suffering, because that's where the core red pill idea really lands. Most suffering is not caused by the situation itself, but by the story your mind tells about it. Something happens, and then a flood of mental interpretation arrives. This is bad. This shouldn't have happened. This always happens to me. This means something about my worth. This means something about my future. The situation itself is almost never the problem. It's the thought-generated resistance to the situation that creates pain. The moment you truly get this, you start seeing how much of your internal world is built from interpretations, not facts. Presence dissolves that resistance, not by forcing you to be positive, but by anchoring you in what is actually happening. This doesn't mean you become passive or indifferent. It means you stop fighting reality with your thoughts. When you're grounded in the moment, clarity comes naturally, and action becomes cleaner, more intentional, less reactive. Instead of reacting from fear or habit, you respond from awareness. There's a common misunderstanding that presence is about escaping life or floating around in some blissful state where nothing bothers you. But presence is not an escape. It's a confrontation with reality so direct that your illusions can't survive it. The reason people often resist presence is because the ego thrives on problems. It identifies with struggle. Without problems to hold on to, the ego feels threatened, like it's dissolving. That's why when people begin practicing presence, their mind often fights back with more noise, more distraction, more emotional turbulence. That's normal. It's just the old identity trying to stay alive. A crucial insight from the philosophy behind this book is the emotions are not random, they're tied to thought. An emotion is like the echo of a thought. If you're feeling anxious, you're almost certainly thinking about the future. If you're feeling regret, guilt, or shame, you're thinking about the past. But presence interrupts this cycle because when you're truly in the now, there is no past or future, not psychologically. There's just this moment, and this moment is usually manageable. This moment is rarely overwhelming. It's only when you start layering mental stories over reality that life begins to feel unbearable. So the real question becomes, how do you actually live in the now? The answer isn't complicated, but it requires practice. You don't force yourself to stop thinking. That doesn't work. Instead, you redirect your attention to something that's always happening in the present, like your breath or the sensations in your body or the feeling of your feet on the ground. The body is always in the now. The mind is almost never in the now. So tuning into the body is one of the easiest ways to step out of the mind's grip. When you do this, even for a few seconds, you might notice something subtle. The mental chatter quiets down, not because you attacked it, but because you stopped feeding it. The mind is like a spinning wheel. It keeps turning as long as something pushes it. When you withdraw your attention, the wheel slows. You begin to sense a spaciousness between thoughts. That spaciousness is presence. It's the opening through which you experience inner stillness. And here's something even shocking. That stillness has been with you your whole life, even as a child. You've just been too entangled with your thoughts to notice it. But when you return to that stillness, you feel like you're finally reconnecting with something you somehow always knew but had forgotten. It's like remembering your natural state. Another powerful concept is that the present moment is the only place where true change can happen. You can't change the past because it's gone. You can't change the future because it hasn't happened. You can only act now. Yet most people spend their lives waiting for the right moment, the right circumstance, the right version of themselves, the right opportunity. But life is only ever now. If you're always waiting, you're missing everything. Taking this idea seriously can feel like the ultimate wake-up call. You start seeing how much of your life is spent postponing your actual living. You become aware of the subtle ways you resist the present, checking your phone out of habit, distracting yourself, mentally escaping into fantasies or worries. Every escape from the now is an escape from your own life. But here's the thing. Living in the now doesn't mean you stop planning or stop having goals. It means you stop using the future as a mental refuge. You plan when planning is necessary, but you don't live in the plan. You return to presence after the plan is made. And when the moment to take action comes, you're more effective because you're fully here, not half lost in mental noise. One of the strongest red pill realizations from this philosophy is the idea that the future is never what you think it is. It can't be, because the future always arrives disguised as the present. Every future moment you've ever imagined has actually unfolded as a present moment. So if you're not comfortable in the present, you'll never be comfortable in the future. This dismantles the whole idea that happiness is something you reach later. It brings happiness into the immediacy of the now. People sometimes ask, if I'm just living in the present, won't I lose